Alien girl shyly admits, I Googled how humans mate. Is it really like that? Jax's left leg burned. A hot, wet mess where the bioacid leaked from his ruptured power conduit. Another genius shortcut. Another planetary surface trying to eat him alive. This one was a ringed moon. All obsidian rock and strange, humming crystalline formations that pulsed with soft light. Beautiful in a will kill you slowly and painfully kind of way. His little scout ship, the Rusty Compromise, was now just the rusty wreck. He lay sprawled in a shallow crater, sucking air that tasted like ozone and regret. He needed shelter, med supplies, and maybe a goddamn miracle. The crystalline hum grew louder. Not just humming, vibrating. The ground started to tremble. Fuck. What now? Seismic activity. The moon was tearing itself apart. He pushed himself up, teeth clenched against the pain. Draggled wires sparked near his head. Definitely not safe to stay here. He needed to move, find something solid, something not trying to turn him into a puddle. He limped toward a cluster of the largest crystals, hoping for an overhang. A cave, anything. The vibrations intensified, a deep resonant frequency that rattled his teeth, and then the crystals shifted. They didn't break or fall, they flowed, like liquid rock, reforming into towering, angular structures, pillars that weren't there a second ago. And standing between two of them, silhouetted against the weird, pulsating light, was something that definitely wasn't part of the local geology report. Tall, taller than him, easily 7 feet, lithe but powerfully built. Her skin was a deep, iridescent violet, overlaid with swirling patterns of faint, electric blue light that seemed to move beneath the surface, like living tattoos. Her eyes, when she turned her head, were large, multifaceted, and glowed with an internal light that matched the patterns on her skin. She wore minimal, segmented armor that looked biological, grown onto her form, no obvious clothing, just the armor and the glowing skin, and she moved with an unnerving, predatory grace. This wasn't local wildlife. This was sapient. This was trouble. He froze, hand instinctively going for the useless, fried blaster on his belt. Hey there, he managed, his voice rough. Didn't mean to crash your rock garden. Just passing through. Having a bad day, you know? She didn't speak. Not with words, anyway. A low, resonant hum emanated from her throat, the same frequency as the vibrating crystals. It wasn't just a sound. It felt like a pressure in his chest, a subtle disquiet in his mind. Her head tilted, those glowing eyes scanning him, taking in the wreck, the blood, the pathetic human trying to look casual while leaking acid. The glowing patterns on her skin brightened slightly, pulsing faster. Curiosity? Assessment? He had no damn idea. Then she raised a hand, not in greeting, her fingers long and tipped with sharp, dark claws, extended. The blue light on her skin flared. The air around her crackled. The goddamn crystals shifted again. The passage behind her sealing with silent efficiency. He was trapped between his burning ship and the shifting rock, facing down an alien who looked like she'd stepped out of a bioluminescent nightmare. Okay, he said, trying for breezy sarcasm. Lockdown, huh? Not a fan of visitors? Fair enough. Just need a ride out of here. Got any space bucks? Her hum deepened, became more melodic, and then she spoke. The sound was rich, multi-layered, almost sung, but the words were sharp, precise, and laced with a strange accent that felt ancient. The resonance has claimed you. Your intrusion has triggered the joining. Her voice resonated not just in the air, but somehow faintly inside his skull. You are marked by the accident. By my accident. The glowing patterns on her skin intensified again, swirling faster, converging on her chest, where they formed a single bright pulsing node of light. You will serve the ritual, or you will dissolve. She took a step toward him, slow and deliberate. The air around him felt suddenly heavy, charged with that humming energy. His bad day was officially getting worse. Much, much worse. The pressure in his chest intensified as she approached, the humming deep and insistent. It wasn't just a sound, it was a physical sensation, a low thrumming that felt like it was trying to sync up with his own heartbeat. His injured leg screamed, but a more primal fear was starting to override the pain. This wasn't just an angry local, this was something else. The air around her felt thick, charged, almost electric. The glowing patterns on her skin were mesmerizing, shifting and flowing like rivers of light under her violet skin. Her eyes, those huge, multifaceted orbs, held his gaze with unnerving intensity. The joining? Jax croaked out, trying to keep his voice level despite the thudding in his chest. Look, lady, if this is some kind of membership drive, I gotta pass. Already got a loyalty card at a questionable space diner. Maxed out. She stopped a few feet away, close enough that he could see the intricate details of her biological armor, the way it seemed to flex with her muscles. The hum from her throat pulsed. Joining is not membership, she stated, her voice that same resonant, multi-layered tone. It is convergence. Alignment. The accident of your vessel disrupting the resonance pillars during my attunement has bound your frequency to mine. She gestured with a clawed hand towards the massive crystals that had sealed the passage. This sanctuary reacts. It perceives the disruption. It demands the correction. Correction? What correction? Correction usually involves a mechanic and about 50 gallons of lubricant, Jax muttered, more to himself. He looked around frantically. The ceiling was complete, solid crystal where the passage had been. No way out but past her. And she didn't look like she was planning on letting him pass. So, what exactly does this joining entail? Is there paperwork? A blood test? Because I think I'm failing the blood test right now. He gestured vaguely at his leaking leg. Her glowing eyes narrowed slightly, focusing on the wound. The humming from her throat changed pitch. A lower, more concerned tone? Or just a different frequency of predator sizing up prey? He couldn't tell. Your biointegrity is compromised, she observed, stating the obvious with ritualistic precision. This weakens the accidental bond. It must be. Bond, stabilized. She reached out, not towards his leg, but towards his face. Jax flinched back. Whoa, hold up! Stabilize? How? Is this where you lick me better or something? Her head tilted again, those multiple facets of her eyes seeming to process his words with alien logic. A low, guttural sound escaped her, something that might have been amusement or disdain. Lick? She echoed, the word foreign on her tongue. Is this part of the human joining? Jax blinked. No, not usually. Look, don't you have a med kit or something? Bandages? Healing crystal? Please tell me you have a healing crystal. Healing is achieved through convergence, she said, her voice firm. The bond will draw upon my stability. But your disruption, it is loud, painful to the resonance. She reached out again, slowly this time. Her clawed fingertips hovered inches from his cheek. The air between them thrummed. He felt a weird tingling sensation on his skin, like static electricity but deeper. Hey, easy, Jax said, his voice tight. He didn't want to look away from those glowing eyes, but the raw power emanating from her was terrifying. Look, I'm just a guy who crashed his ship. No big deal. Can we just... I can trigger the ritual? Is there an undo button on this thing? There is no undo, she stated with absolute certainty. The resonance is absolute. It binds. Once bound. Only. Decompletion or dissolution remains. Her fingers brushed his cheek, cool and slightly rough. The tingling sensation intensified, running down his spine. Her glowing eyes seemed to look not just at his face, but through it, into something deeper. Your core frequency, she murmured, the hum beneath her words almost a whisper. Chaotic, unpredictable, but resonant. Her hand dropped. She stood perfectly still for a moment, those swirling lights on her skin slowing their frantic dance. Then, without warning, she grabbed the front of his torn flight suit. Her grip, surprisingly strong, pulled him closer. Her face was inches from his. Those glowing eyes were all he could see. The humming from her throat filled his ears, vibrated against his ribs. "You disrupted the sacred attunement," she said, her voice now low, commanding. "You belong to the correction. You belong to me now. Understand, human." Jax stared up at her, held fast in her grip. The raw dominance in her voice, the sheer alien presence, hit him with the force of a physical blow. His sarcastic reply died on his tongue. He was cornered, injured, and claimed by whatever this alien joining thing was. And she looked like she was ready to start correcting him right now. "Yeah," he breathed out, the word tight with pain and fear. "I think I'm starting to get it." Her grip tightened just enough to be a clear warning. Her glowing eyes held his, searching, assessing. The deep hum from her throat pulsed against his chest. "Good," she stated, the sound layered with satisfaction and something else he couldn't read. "Comprehension is the first step towards convergence." She released him abruptly. Jack stumbled back, clutching his bleeding leg, trying to regain his balance and some semblance of his usual cocky demeanor. It was hard when his insides felt like they were vibrating. "Right," he said, forcing a strained smile. "Convergence. So, how do we converge? Is there a manual? Because I feel like I missed that chapter." She turned, gliding with fluid motion back towards the massive crystal pillars that sealed their exit. The glowing patterns on her skin shifted, condensing into brighter nodes along her spine. "The resonance dictates the stages," she replied, her voice slightly softer now, though still commanding. "First, proximity. The bond must solidify. You will remain within my aura." She glanced back at him over her shoulder, her head tilted. "And your physical disruption is inconvenient. It must be addressed before the deeper frequencies align." "Great. So phase 1, stay close to the glowy, terrifying alien who thinks he accidentally married her with his spaceship. And she was worried about his boo-boo. Progress? Maybe. Address the disruption?" Jax asked cautiously. "Does that mean you do have a med kit?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she gestured with a clawed hand towards a small alcove that had formed within the crystal structure. It was dimly lit by the ambient glow of the crystals, surprisingly smooth-walled inside. "Shelter," she stated. "The moon's frequencies are unstable outside the resonance field. We wait there." "Wait for what?" Jax asked, but she was already moving, flowing into the alcove. He hesitated for a second, glancing back at his wrecked ship. No escape that way. No sign of rescue. Just acid leaks and fire hazards. The weird, pulsating crystals felt hostile. Being near the glowy alien, as terrifying as she was, felt marginally less fatal than staying out here. With a sigh and a wince from his leg, he limped into the alcove after her. The space was small, maybe 10 feet across, just big enough for both of them, uncomfortably so. The air inside was warmer, felt strangely clean, and hummed faintly with that same energy that emanated from her. She stood in the center, perfectly still, watching him as he shuffled inside, trying to find a way to sit without putting pressure on his bad leg. "So," Jax said, trying to break the tense silence. "Name's Jax. What's yours, Glowsticks?" Her eyes narrowed slightly. The humming from her throat pitched down, a clear sign of displeasure. "My designation is Zyla," she said, her voice sharp, "and your colloquialism is unwelcome. Address me with respect, human. The resonance demands it." Right. "Zyla. Got it." He carefully sank down against the smooth crystal wall, wincing. "Look, Zyla, I didn't mean to disrespect you. Just trying to, break the ice, build some rapport. Since we're, apparently joined now." She didn't reply immediately. She simply watched him, her glowing eyes assessing his pain, his discomfort. Then slowly, she knelt down beside him. Not close enough to touch, but near enough that the subtle heat from her body was noticeable, and the low hum of her energy field was a palpable presence. "Your wound," she stated. "It disrupts the harmonic alignment." "Yeah, no shit," Jax muttered. "Need a bandage, or a tourniquet, or a miracle? Got any of those in your Odin bioarmor?" She ignored the sarcasm. She reached out, this time towards his leg. Jax tensed, bracing for something weird or painful. Her clawed fingers hovered just above the torn fabric of his suit, the ripped skin beneath. The blue light on her skin pulsed, and suddenly the humming intensified, focused entirely on his leg. He gasped. It wasn't pain. It was a weird, intense tingling, like a million tiny needles working on his flesh. He could feel the bioacid being neutralized, the bleeding slowing. The torn edges of the wound seemed to twitch. Not healing, not yet, but stabilizing exactly as she'd said. It was incredible, terrifying, and completely alien. "What the hell are you doing?" he whispered, watching in stunned silence. "Applying harmonic resonance," she replied, her voice flat. "My field interacts with your damaged cells, promotes cohesion. It is necessary for the bond to strengthen." The glowing patterns on her skin flowed down her arm, concentrating around her fingertips, hovering over his leg. The air smelled faintly of ozone and something else, something warm and earthy. The tingling subsided after a minute, leaving his leg feeling numb, but the frantic, burning pain significantly dulled. The bleeding had stopped. "Wow," Jax breathed out, staring at his leg, then up at her. "Okay, that's telling something. Didn't know you guys could do that." "My lineage are conduits of the resonance," Silas stated, standing up smoothly. "Healers attuned to the moon's energy. It is why I was performing the attunement ritual when you interrupted." There was a hint of accusation in her voice, reminding him this wasn't a spa day. "Your timing was disruptive." "Yeah, sorry about the crashing into your sacred space thing," Jax said sheepishly. "My navigation got creative." She stepped back, putting a little distance between them in the small alcove. Her glowing eyes continued to study him. "Your energy signature is different," she mused aloud, more to herself than him. Loud yet fragmented. "Most life on this moon aligns simply. You resist." "Resist what? Getting claimed by giant, glowy aliens?" Jax retorted, the sarcasm returning as the immediate pain subsided. "Yeah, that's kind of a human thing. We're not great at being told what to do." A slow, low hum emanated from Scylla. It didn't sound angry. It sounded intrigued. "Not great at being told what to do," she repeated, savoring the words as if dissecting a strange concept. "A challenging frequency." She paused. Then those large, multifaceted eyes held his again. The swirling blue light on her skin seemed to pulse with a new intensity, gathering near her chest again. "The resonance requires completion," she stated, her voice taking on a more intense, demanding tone. "To stabilize the bond, the frequencies must align fully. This requires deeper convergence." "Deeper convergence," Jax repeated, his gut tightening. "What does that involve, exactly?" "More." "The harmonic resonance." Silas stepped closer again, invading his personal space in the small alcove. The air around her felt heavy, charged. Her glowing eyes held his, unwavering. "It involves intimacy, human," she stated, the words sounding clinical, yet the feeling behind it, the energy she projected, was anything but sharing of core energies. Physical alignment. Her gaze dropped to his body, scanning him with an assessing intensity that made the hairs on his arms stand up. "My research indicates human mating involves significant physical contact." Jax swallowed. His mouth felt dry. He could feel the heat radiating from her, the steady thrumming of her unique energy field. "Your research," he managed, trying to keep his voice steady. "What research?" Zyla's head tilted slightly, and for the first time, her absolute confidence seemed to waver. Just a fraction. The swirling patterns on her skin shifted, a faint blush of purple deepening the violet hue near her throat. Her voice, when she spoke, was quieter. The deep resonance softened into something that sounded almost hesitant. "I scanned your ship's data core before its integrity failed," she admitted, her glowing eyes flickering away from his for a brief second before returning, albeit with less direct intensity, seeking knowledge of the disruptive species. "I found records, extensive records, on something called the Galactic net. Jax stared at her. His ship's entertainment data core, the one he'd filled with every questionable, low-budget, highly inaccurate educational info vid he could find from backwater systems, specifically for long, boring cargo hauls. Galactic Net was code for Ancient Human Internet Archives. You scanned my browsing history, he spluttered, half horrified, half bemused. Zyla's glowing patterns pulsed faster, and that faint blush deepened. The humming from her throat was higher pitched now, almost a nervous sound. It contained information. Your biology, she stated, her voice low. On your reproductive functions. On your mating. She paused, and her eyes seemed to dart around the small alcove, avoiding his gaze. It was confusing. Much conflicting data. Many visual aids that seemed exaggerated. He couldn't help it. A choked laugh escaped him, part shock, part genuine humor. Exaggerated? You're telling me my shitty data files on how humans mate looked exaggerated to a giant glowy alien? She finally met his eyes again, and there was a vulnerability in her gaze he hadn't expected. The raw, commanding aura seemed to soften, replaced by a hesitant curiosity that was somehow more unnerving. And then she delivered the line, her voice barely above a whisper, the full weight of her confusion laid bare. Alien girl shyly admits, I Googled how humans mate. Is it really like that? The universe screeched to a halt for Jax. This terrifying, dominant, powerful alien creature, who could heal him with her hands and bound him with her energy field, had apparently learned about human sex from outdated internet porn. His leg forgotten, he just stared at her, dumbfounded. You. What? The data, she repeated, the blush deepening. It showed complex physical maneuvers, exchange of fluids, vocalizations, much thrusting. She looked utterly bewildered. It seemed inefficient for propagation, and strangely focused on pleasure. Jax ran a hand through his hair, trying to process this. This wasn't how he'd expected the conversation about deeper convergence to go. Okay, look, Zyla, he said, trying to keep his voice serious. Some of that stuff on the galactic net. It's not exactly accurate. It's more for entertainment or wishful thinking. Maneuvers is one word for it, sure. Inefficient is probably also accurate for a lot of it. Yeah. Her humming intensified, but it sounded like contemplation now, not threat. Wishful thinking, she echoed. Is your reproduction, sick, a form of the fantasy projection? Not exactly, Jax sighed. It's tan complicated. Humans, we don't just mate for propagation. Not always. Sometimes it's for connection or bonding, or just because it feels good. Zyla blinked slowly, her large eyes wide with alien incomprehension. Feels good, she repeated, as if the concept was entirely foreign. The data indicated the intense physical sensation. But good? It seemed violent in its intensity. She paused, then leaned slightly closer, her voice dropping again, filled with that strange, hesitant curiosity. Is it truly like the data described? The hairs thrusting, the orgasms? Jax felt a flush rising up his own neck, talking about sex with a powerful alien who learned it from low-rent intergalactic smut was not on his life plan, especially not one who was currently claiming him as part of a sacred ritual. Look, Zyla, he said, trying to deflect. It's different for everyone, and I'm pretty sure what you saw was the highlight reel, not the documentary. But she wasn't letting it go. Her focus was singular now, fixed on this bizarrely chosen topic. The highlight reel, she repeated, absorbing the new term. So, not the standard, but you said, just because it feels good. This good feeling. And is it required for human joining? He was trapped. Trapped in a cave with a powerful alien heiress who had crash course knowledge of human sexuality from the worst possible source. And she was demanding to know if it was really like that. And apparently, His survival or the completion of this resonance ritual depended on resolving her very specific, very awkward questions. He wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Instead, he had to have the talk with a creature made of glowing energy and sharp claws. Okay, fine, he said, rubbing his temples. Yes, Zyla, for humans, sex. It can feel good. Really good, actually. And sometimes, yeah, there's thrusting and orgasms. Whatever your data said, some version of it is real. But it's also more than just the mechanics. It's about the person, the connection. Her glowing eyes searched his face, trying to reconcile the data she'd consumed with his hesitant explanation. The humming from her throat was a low, contemplative note. Connection, she mused. The data did not emphasize connection. It focused on physical outcomes. Efficiency for sperm delivery. Yeah, that sounds about right. For galactic net info, Jax groaned. Look, can we table the sex education for a bit? My leg is numb, but the rest of me is still freaking out about the whole claimed by the ritual thing. The two are intertwined, human. Zyla stated, her voice regaining some of its authority. The deeper convergence necessary to stabilize the bond is physical. My resonance requires a partner to synchronize. Your accidental trigger has designated you, and your documented methods of physical convergence are available to me now. She took a step closer, the glowing patterns on her skin pulsing with renewed intensity. The air in the small alcove crackled with energy. The data was instructional, she said, her voice low and demanding, though I question its accuracy regarding the pleasure component. Perhaps it requires practical verification. Jax's breath hitched. Practical verification. Was she seriously about to try and replicate what she saw on his smut files? Right here? Now? Whoa! Hold on, Scylla, he said, trying to back away, but the wall was behind him. Maybe we should, consult a more reliable source? Or just not? Her face was inches from his again. Her glowing eyes locked onto his. The powerful, confident alien was back, but now overlaid with a layer of strange, research-driven intent. The resonance demands completion, she stated, her voice absolute. The bond must be solidified, and your species' method of physical convergence is the only available vector. Her hand, warm and humming with energy, reached out and cupped his cheek. The subtle vibration ran through him, deeper this time, resonating in his bones. Prepare for practical verification. Human, she commanded softly, and perhaps clarification on this pleasure concept. He was trapped, vulnerable, and facing a powerful, alien warrior heiress who was about to attempt interstellar coitus based on dodgy internet porn, all to fulfill a sacred ritual she didn't fully understand. Jax closed his eyes for a second. Oh, for fuck's sake, he muttered. This was not how he'd pictured his final moments, or even his next few minutes. Her fingers traced the line of his jaw, the touch sending shivers down his spine, that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with the charged energy she projected. The air in the small alcove grew heavier, warmer. He could feel the subtle shift in her energy field, the way it was reaching out, attempting to sync with his own chaotic frequency. Open your eyes, human, Zyla commanded softly, her voice a deep hum that vibrated through his skull. Observe the convergence. He opened them, meeting her intense, glowing gaze. The blue patterns on her skin were pulsing rapidly now, mirroring the sudden acceleration of his own heart. Her free hand rested on his chest, directly over his heart, and he could feel the thrumming pressure increase, trying to match his frantic beat. The data indicated, "Bite a skin contact," she murmured, her voice barely a whisper. Much contact. Before he could react, she leaned in, her mouth meeting his. It wasn't a kiss as humans understood it. No soft pressure, no exploration. It was a firm, almost clinical press of her lips against his, accompanied by an intense surge of that humming energy. It felt like she was trying to merge their very atoms. The tingling sensation he'd felt on his leg spread through his entire body, a wave of electric heat that made his muscles tense. Then, the practical verification began. It wasn't gentle. Zyla moved with a powerful, almost brutal efficiency, guided perhaps by the questionable highlight reels she'd consumed. She was strong, unyielding, driven by the need to complete the ritual to align the frequencies. Her movements were direct, focused on the purely physical aspects. The thrusting she'd mentioned, the attempt to replicate the mechanics she'd seen. Jax was caught off guard, overwhelmed by the sheer alien force and intensity. His injured leg was forgotten in the onslaught of sensation. Her touch was hot, humming with power. The texture of her iridescent skin strange and fascinating against his own. The glowing patterns on her body flared, casting erratic, pulsing light on the crystal walls. It started as a power struggle, his body reacting instinctively, trying to resist the alien claim, the forced union. But the resonance, the bond she spoke of, was real. He could feel his own energy field responding, drawn into hers like a moth to a flame. The humming intensified, synchronizing with his heartbeat, with his ragged breaths. Her alien body felt different beneath his hands as he instinctively gripped her, a mix of firm muscle and something smoother, more yielding. The scent of ozone and earth intensified. Her vocalizations were not human sounds of pleasure, but deep, guttural hums and resonant tones that seemed to vibrate, not just the air but his very bones. Convergence, she gasped, the word a low hum against his ear, her breath hot against his skin. Align, human, align your frequency. He couldn't think, could barely breathe. It was raw, primal, driven by the alien ritual, and his own body's panicked, then desperate, response to the overwhelming energy and physical contact. The initial resistance crumbled under the sheer intensity of the experience. He was being swept away not just physically, but by the strange, powerful flow of the resonance binding them together. His body began to respond in ways he couldn't control, guided by the alien force, the strange, unfamiliar rhythms. It was a terrifying loss of control, but also something else, something intense, bordering on pain, then tipping over into a desperate, overwhelming sensation that mirrored the energy surging through them. The glowing patterns on Zyla's skin flared one last time, a blinding pulse of blue light that filled the small alcove. A sharp, electric jolt ran through Jax, different from the tingling. It was focused, searing, centered on his chest, right where her hand had rested. He cried out, not from pain, but from the sheer, explosive force of the synchronized energy. His muscles spasmed, his body arching. He felt a sudden, intense release, a shattering of something deep inside him, followed by a rush of sensation that was both alien and terrifyingly familiar. Zyla stiffened, her humming intensifying into a high-pitched, keening sound. Her grip on him tightened to the point of bruising. The blue light on her skin pulsed and then, slowly, began to fade, leaving only the soft, steady glow of her natural bioluminescence. They collapsed together, gasping for breath in the suddenly quiet alcove. The intense humming subsided, replaced by the sound of their own ragged breathing. Jax lay sprawled beneath her, aching, shaken, and profoundly disoriented. His body felt different, heavy, yet strangely lighter, and on his chest, precisely where she'd held her hand, he felt a faint burning sensation, as if something had been imprinted onto his skin. Zyla slowly pushed herself up, looking down at him with eyes that were still glowing, but now held a mixture of confusion, exhaustion, and something else. A dawning realization. The commanding aura was gone, replaced by a strange vulnerability. That was intense, she stated, her voice lacking its usual resonance, flat and breathless. The data did not fully convey the magnitude. She paused, then her eyes fixed on his chest. The bond, though, it is complete. Jax looked down, pushing aside the torn fabric of his flight suit. On his skin, over his heart, was a faint, pulsing mark, It wasn't a tattoo or a scar. It was a swirling pattern of electric blue light, mirroring the patterns on Zyla's skin, but embedded in his flesh. It hummed faintly, in sync with a new, subtle vibration he felt deep within his bones. "What the hell is this?" he whispered, tracing the mark with a trembling finger. "The resonance mark," Zyla replied, her voice regaining a fraction of its strength, though laced with bewilderment. "Proof of the completed bond. My lineage receives this mark upon successful attunement, with a compatible frequency." Her gaze searched his face. It is stronger than anticipated. It resonates with unexpected depth." She paused, her brows furrowing slightly, an expression that made her look surprisingly human despite the glowing eyes and violet skin. "And the pleasure, while perhaps not as the data described the orgasm, there was a powerful release, a convergence of energy that felt significant." Jax just stared at the mark, at her. He had just been ritually bound to an alien warrior princess through an act of physical convergence based on her misinterpreted internet search history. And he had a glowing, pulsating mark on his chest to prove it. He wanted to laugh, to cry, to scream. This was beyond absurd. "Significant?" he echoed weakly. "Yeah, I'd say being branded with alien glow ink is pretty damn significant." Zyla didn't seem to register his sarcasm. She was still absorbed in her own analysis. The energy transfer was substantial, she mused, touching the mark on his chest with a hesitant finger. The touch sent another jolt through him, less intense than before, but still powerful. "My own attunement is amplified, and but physical disruption is completely stabilized." He glanced down at his leg. The wound was gone. Not healed, but somehow smoothed over, the torn flesh sealed and glowing faintly with the same blue light as his new chest mark. "It didn't hurt at all. Holy hell," he breathed. "You healed me." "With the sex?" "With resonance," Zyla corrected, though there was still confusion in her eyes. "The physical act facilitated the frequency alignment. It is how the bond solidifies. And the stronger the bond, the greater the shared energy. The healing is a byproduct of the bond's completion." She stood up fully, pulling her segmented armor around her with a fluid motion. The vulnerability was fading, replaced by a return of her natural poise, but the bewilderment lingered in her gaze. "So," Jax said, pushing himself up to a sitting position, ignoring the residual tremors in his limbs. "We're bonded now. Like, forever? Like, are we married? Is this the alien version of I do?" Zyla considered his words. Her head tilted. "Married," she repeated, the word alien on her tongue. "The data described this. Permanent union. Yes, human. The resonance bond is permanent. You are claimed. You are aligned. You are mine," she stated, it with a quiet certainty that sent a fresh wave of panic through him. "My..." Jack spluttered. "Whoa, hold on. We just had..." "Whatever that was." "Because my ship crashed and you read some dodgy files." "That doesn't make me yours." Her glowing eyes fixed on him, the confusion momentarily replaced by a flash of the dominant power he'd first encountered. "It is the law of the resonance, human," she stated, her voice regaining its deep commanding tone. "You triggered the joining. You completed the ritual. The mark confirms it. You are of my lineage now, bound by energy and flesh. Your frequency belongs to me." "My frequency belongs to you?" Jack stood up, wincing slightly as his healed leg protested its sudden recovery. "What does that even mean? Do I need a leash? A collar? Am I your pet?" "You are." Aligned, Zyla repeated patiently, though the edge was back in her voice. "My compliment. The bond is symbiotic. It requires the proximity and cooperation, especially now." "Now," Jax prompted, his gaze darting towards the sealed entrance. "What's especially now?" As if on cue, a deep, resonant pulse ran through the crystal walls of the alcove. Not the same humming as before, but a different frequency, colder, more aggressive. The ambient light within the crystals flickered erratically. Zyla's posture shifted instantly, her bioluminescent patterns flaring back to life, swirling with a frantic intensity. Her hand went to a section of her bio-armor near her hip, which reshaped itself into a wicked-looking bladed weapon. "The High Elders," she stated, her voice tight. They felt the completion of the bond. Such a powerful resonance. It cannot be ignored. Especially not a bond with the outsider. Jax's blood ran cold. High Elders. Villains. He'd forgotten about the external threat in the bizarre aftermath of the joining. "The Elders?" he asked. "They're coming here? Why?" "Because you bonded with a human. The bond is sacred," Siler explained quickly, her eyes darting towards the sealed entrance. "But only when formed, according to the ancient ways, with a partner of acceptable lineage. Your intrusion, pure chaotic frequency, disrupting the attunement, then now, bonded to me with such power. That is an abomination in their eyes." She met his gaze, her glowing eyes filled with a sudden, fierce intensity that transcended confusion or command. "They will seek to dissolve the bond, to purify the lineage. And dissolution for an abomination like our bond is extinction for both participants." Jax stared at her, at the glowing mark on his chest, at the pulsing threat vibrating through the walls. Sex based on dodgy internet porn had just gotten him a permanent glowing mark, a powerful alien wife, and a death sentence from her entire patriarchal society. "Well, fuck me," he muttered. He supposed that was technically already covered. "They will not wait," Zyla stated, brandishing her bladed arm. "The resonance of the bond is a beacon to them. We must move. Now." "Move where?" Jax asked, scrambling to his feet, his miraculously healed leg feeling surprisingly strong. "The entrance is sealed, remember?" Zyla didn't reply. She turned towards the back wall of the small alcove, the one opposite the sealed entrance. She placed her hand flat against the smooth crystal surface. The glowing patterns on her skin flowed into the wall, and the crystal began to hum, then glow with intense blue light. The solid wall shimmered, then flowed like water, parting to reveal a dark passage beyond. "The sanctuary reacts to the resonance," Zyler explained, stepping through the shimmering opening. "The bond has changed its perception of us. It offers a new path." She looked back at him, her glowing eyes sharp. "Come, human. Your uncharted territory experience is just beginning. We are hunted together." Jax didn't hesitate. The deep, aggressive pulse was growing louder, closer. He could feel the resonance mark on his chest humming in response, a strange mix of fear and defiant energy flowing through him. He limped through the shimmering passage after Zyla, leaving the wreckage of his ship and the site of his bizarre involuntary mating ritual behind. The passage sealed silently behind them, leaving them alone in the dark, narrow tunnel, bonded and pursued. The passage was narrow and winding, the air cool and damp. The crystal walls hummed faintly with Sila's presence, a constant reminder of the bizarre bond now linking them. Jax moved faster than he expected, his body responding to the urgency, his healed leg proving surprisingly capable. The glowing mark on his chest pulsed rhythmically, a quiet, internal vibration that felt strangely comforting despite the terrifying circumstances. "So," Jax said, trying to catch his breath as they hurried through the crystalline tunnel. "High Elders, abomination, dissolution." "Got it. What exactly is their plan for dissolution? Does it involve melting, disintegration, pointy sticks?" Zyla kept her gaze fixed forward, her bioluminescent patterns providing the only light in the tunnel, casting dancing blue shadows on the walls. "Dissolution for a misplaced bond involves severing the resonance entirely," she replied, her voice sharp. "For two bonded frequencies, this means entropy, cellular collapse. A slow, painful unwinding of form." "Entropy. Right. Sounds like a good time," Jax muttered. "So, basically if they catch us we melt." "Precisely," she confirmed. "And the stronger the bond, the more spectacular the collapse. Our bond, it is unusually strong." There was a hint of something in her voice. Pride? Dismay? He couldn't tell. "Great. My sex life is literally going to kill me, Jax grumbled. This is peak bad day. Your sex life was the catalyst for the bond, Zyla corrected, turning her head slightly to glance at him. Not the source of the threat. The source of the threat is my lineage's rigidity. Their refusal to accept new frequencies into the attunement. Right. Their loss, Jax said. So, where are we going? Is there an escape route from this? Living rock garden? The sanctuary has many pathways, Isla replied. It adapts to the resonance. It will guide those within it towards their intended state. For us, currently, that state is divergence from the ruling frequencies. Divergence. Run away. Got it. Jax translated. So, this place is like sentient rock? It opens doors for you? It is attuned to the resonance of my lineage, she explained. It responds to our energy. The stronger the resonance within it, the more it conforms to our needs. Huh, neat trick, Jax said, then grimaced. Just wish my ship had that feature. Oh, you're about to crash? Here, have a shield and an escape hatch. Nope, just here's some bioacid. Asshole. Scylla emitted that low, guttural sound again, the one that might be amusement. Your vessel was primitive, she stated, lacking in fundamental resonance alignment. Hey, the rusty compromise was a workhorse, Jax protested. She got me where I needed to go. Usually, perhaps your needs were insufficiently resonant, Scylla mused. They continued through the winding tunnel, the humming of their bond and the deeper aggressive pulse behind them the only sounds. The air grew colder. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern, lit by the distant glow of the moon's rings, filtering through cracks in the ceiling. The cavern was filled with impossible crystalline structures, some towering hundreds of feet, others delicate filigreed spires, and in the center of the cavern, hovering in the air, were several figures. They were larger than Zyla, their forms similar but bulkier, their bioluminescent patterns a dull, angry red instead of vibrant blue. Their forms seemed to vibrate with the aggressive pulse they'd felt earlier. The High Elders. They anticipated this path, Scylla whispered, her body tensing beside him. Her bladed arm was raised, ready. Well shit, Jax breathed instinctively, pressing himself against the cavern wall, trying to disappear into the shadows. Looks like the welcoming committee showed up. The hovering elders pulsed brighter with red light. A deep, resonant sound, louder and more powerful than Zyla's hum, filled the cavern. It wasn't words, not really, but it felt like a direct assault on his mind. A wave of judgment and fury. It was directed at Zyla, but the mark on his chest pulsed painfully in response, connecting him to the psychic assault. Zyla shielded him slightly with her body, her own blue light flaring in defiance. The pain in his chest subsided to a dull ache. They perceive the outsider frequency, she stated, her voice strained. They demand surrender. Demands. Disseverance. Severance equals melting, right? Pass, Jax said. Any chance this sentient rock cavern can open another exit? Like, now? The sanctuary is conflicted, Scylla replied, watching the elders with narrowed eyes. Our bond is an anomaly. It resonates with the deep core, but defies the surface structure of the lineage. The paths are hesitant. One of the elders detached from the hovering group, gliding forward with menacing grace. Its red light intensified, focusing on them. It didn't speak, but the mental assault sharpened. A probing, invasive force, pushing against Jax's mind, trying to find the core of the bond. He felt a sickening lurch in his gut, like something was trying to tear his very being apart. They are attempting to unravel the bond remotely, Zyla said, her voice tight with effort. She placed a hand on his chest over the mark. Her blue light intensified, reinforcing his own pulsing mark. The painful unraveling sensation eased slightly. The resonance requires proximity for effective counterfrequency. We must engage. Engage? With those things? They're like glowing red brick walls, Jax protested. They are powerful conduits of the corrupted resonance, Zyla corrected. but they are not invincible. Our bond is new, chaotic, but powerful. It resonates with the pure core of the moon. It has capabilities even they do not possess. She looked at him, her glowing eyes fierce. We fight, human. We defend the bond. We defend ourselves. Before Jax could reply, Xyla surged forward, not towards the approaching elder, but towards a towering, crystalline spire in the center of the cavern. Draw their focus, she commanded over her shoulder, her voice resonant with power. Keep them distracted from the ritual spire. Ritual spire? What ritual spire? Jax felt a jolt of adrenaline. He was supposed to distract the pissed-off alien elders who wanted to melt him. Armed with false sarcasm? Right. Distraction. My specialty, he yelled, running away from Xyla, putting himself between her and the main group of hovering elders. Hey, ugly glowworms. Over here. Yeah, the human. The one who just boned your... The daughter? Was she your daughter? Doesn't matter. Pretty good at the thrusting thing. Just so you know. The red glow of the elders pulsed violently at his words, the psychic assault escalating from probing to pure, incandescent rage. He felt a wave of psychic force hit him, a purely emotional blast of fury and disgust that made him stumble, his chest mark burned, fighting back, anchoring him. Frequencies of revulsion noted. Jax yelled, ducking behind a smaller crystal formation as blasts of red energy lanced through the air where he'd been standing. The beams didn't hit him, but they impacted the crystal with deafening cracks, making the structure vibrate violently. Look, I know my resonance is chaotic. Adds to the charm. You guys could stand to loosen up? Maybe try some of that pleasure concept Xyla was telling me about. He ran again, dodging more energy blasts, scrambling from crystal to crystal, drawing their fire. He could see Xyla at the ritual spire, her blue light flowing into it, the spire itself beginning to pulse with a soft internal glow. Whatever she was doing, it was pissing off the elders even more. Human, cease your disruptive vocalizations. One of the elders projected directly into his mind, its voice a harsh grating sound. You defile the sacred space with your chaos. Chaos is my middle name, pal. Jax Chaos Mitchell, he yelled back, vaulting over a fallen crystal shard. And you guys are invited to the defilement party. Bring your own glow sticks. He felt a different kind of psychic attack then, colder, attempting to freeze his mind, to make him stop, make him vulnerable. He stumbled, his thoughts feeling sluggish, his limbs heavy. The mark on his chest flared, counteracting the effect. A jolt of warmth and clarity, cutting through the mental fog. The bond was defending him. He saw Xyla pour more energy into the spire, her body radiating intense blue light. The spire pulsed brighter, faster. The main group of elders broke formation, 3 of them peeling off to intercept Xyla, leaving the others to deal with him. Human, disrupt their path. Xyla's voice echoed in his mind, amplified by the resonance. Right, distract harder. Jax charged out from behind his cover, running straight towards the 3 elders heading for Xyla. He had no weapon, no plan, just pure adrenaline and a desperate need to keep them away from her. Yo! Over here, Red Roaches. Let's talk about your terrible taste in bonding partners. He didn't expect to hit them. He expected to get zapped. But as he charged, the ground beneath him shifted. Not like the controlled flow from earlier, but a sudden, violent eruption of crystal shards. He leaped over a fissure that opened beneath his feet, using the momentum to propel himself forward. One of the elders, caught off guard by the shifting ground, wavered in its hover. Jax didn't think. He just reacted. He leaped onto the wavering elder, grabbing onto its bulky, pulsing form. It felt solid, but vibrated intensely. Get off me, abomination, it screeched mentally, a piercing sound that rattled his teeth. Not a chance, buddy, Jax yelled, holding on tight. He could feel the elder's power, raw and furious, trying to burn him off, to dissolve him. His chest mark flared, fighting back, drawing on the combined energy of his and Xyla's bond. The conflicting frequencies created a chaotic, painful feedback loop for the elder. Zyla reached the spire, placing both hands on it. The blue light from her body intensified, merging with the spire's glow. The entire cavern began to hum, louder than ever before, a deep, resonant chord that vibrated through everything. The elders pursuing her faltered. The two elders, still focused on Jax, recoiled, their red light dimming slightly. The one he was clinging to convulsed, its red light flickering like a dying ember. The chaotic energy of the bond, amplified by the spire's resonance, was overwhelming it. The spire amplifies the pure resonance, Zyla's voice echoed, strong and clear now, ringing with triumph. It pushes back the corrupted frequencies. The sanctuary aligns. The cavern floor erupted again, not in controlled fissures, but in violent geysers of light and energy. The towering crystal structures pulsed in sync with the spire. The red light of the elders flickered, their forms starting to dissipate like smoke. The one Jax was on let out a final piercing mental scream as its form began to unravel, its red light fading into nothingness. Jax leaped off just in time, landing hard on the shaking crystal floor as the elder dissolved into dust. The remaining elders, weakened and overwhelmed by the amplified resonance, broke their attack. Their red light faded entirely, their forms becoming transparent, then vanishing into the swirling light of the cavern. The aggressive pulse was gone. The cavern fell silent, save for the soft, steady hum of the spire and Zyla's own resonance. The light from the spire slowly subsided, leaving only the gentle glow of the moon's rings in Zyla's body. Jax pushed himself up, bruised but whole, the mark on his chest pulsing warmly. He looked at the empty space where the elders had been, then at Zyla standing by the now calm spire, radiating a calm, powerful blue light. "Well," he said, wiping sweat and dust from his brow. "That was uneventful." Zyla turned to face him, her expression unreadable in the dim light. "The bond was a potent weapon," she stated, her voice regaining its full resonance, though softer now, devoid of the previous confusion or demand. "Your chaos frequency, amplified by my lineage's resonance and the sanctuary's core, it was an unbearable dissonance for the corrupted frequencies." "My chaos frequency," Jax chuckled, shaking his head. "Yeah, turns out being a complete disaster comes in handy sometimes." He walked towards her, slowing as he reached the spire. He placed a hand on the crystal. It felt warm, still humming faintly. "So, we won? The elders are gone?" "For now," Zyla confirmed. "They are dispelled from this sector of the sanctuary. Their forms will reconstitute elsewhere. But their influence here is broken. The sanctuary is cleansed." "Cleansed," Jax repeated, looking around the vast, silent cavern. "So, what now? We're still bonded. We're still claimed. And your family probably still wants to melt us." Zyla met his gaze, her glowing eyes searching his face. The swirling patterns on her skin flowed gently, no longer frantic. "The resonance is complete," she said. "The bond is undeniable. The sanctuary has accepted our frequency." She paused, then added, "My status within the lineage is altered. I have defied the High Elders. I am an exile now. With you." Jax absorbed that exile. She'd chosen him, or the bond had, over her family, her status. Exile. "Huh? Yeah, I can relate," he said softly, thinking of his own reasons for floating aimlessly through the galaxy. "So, what's an exiled resonance heiress and her chaos frequency human husband do for a living?" Zyla stepped away from the spire, her hand resting on the mark on his chest. Her touch gentle this time. The mark pulsed warmly under her fingertips. "The bond is not merely claiming," she stated, her voice a low hum. "It is the mutual reliance. Our frequencies are now intertwined. My attunement is amplified by your chaos. Your resilience is anchored by my resonance." She looked into his eyes. "We survive together. We forge a new path together." It wasn't a declaration of love, not in the human sense. It was a statement of fact, of necessity, born from a forced ritual, a bizarre accident, and a shared fight for survival. But as he looked at her, at the quiet power in her form, the lingering confusion and dawning understanding in her glowing eyes, the warmth of her hand on his chest, Jax felt something shift inside him. This wasn't just a bad day that had gotten worse. This was something, something terrifying, absurd, and undeniably real. Together, Jax echoed, placing his hand over hers on his chest, feeling the pulse of the mark beneath their joined hands. Yeah, guess that's the plan now. Just to try not to Google any more human customs. Okay? For the sake of my sanity. A faint hum, softer than any he'd heard before, escaped Zyla. It wasn't amusement or disdain. It sounded almost fond. Acknowledged. Human, she replied, her thumb gently stroking the glowing mark. Future research will be verified through practical application only, with appropriate consent. Jax gave a short, sharp laugh, the sound echoing slightly in the vast cavern. Consent. Right. Let's try that next time. Yeah? He looked out across the cavern, then back at Scylla. They were bonded, exiled and alone on a strange moon, with whatever future they had entirely uncertain. But for the first time since he'd crashed, the fear was tempered by something else, a sense of strange partnership, a connection forged in chaos and crystal light. His hand tightened slightly on hers. All right, Zyla, lead the way. Where to, wife? Her head tilted, her glowing eyes holding his gaze. Towards a new resonance, human, she stated, her voice steady, resonant with newfound purpose. Towards the survival. Together, she turned, moving with her silent grace towards the edge of the cavern, looking for the path that the sanctuary would now open for them. Jax followed, the glowing mark on his chest, a warm weight, his chaos frequency now permanently aligned with her resonance, ready to face whatever came next.